You know, if you own a bank, you're probably going to want to start lending money because that's how banks make money. You see, banks get us to deposit money into their bank, and then they pay us interest most of the time. But then if we want something from the bank, like a loan for a car, we go back and we borrow the money from the bank. But let me ask you this. Have you ever found a bank that actually pays you more in interest than they charge you in interest? In other words, can you get more on your deposits than what you pay on a loan from the same bank? The answer is no. So therefore, loans to banks are assets. And if you owned your own bank, if you created your own private banking system, loans would be what you'd want to be doing, because that's how you'd make money. You'd make the spread. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to demystify policy loans for your banking system and why they are so important, why they are almost essential to perform the infinite banking concepts, and why owning your own private banking system puts you in control, allows you to make the spread, and makes you a whole bunch of money. Come on. Welcome back, everybody. Another week, another wealth webinar. Thanks for joining us on this webinar, which we've been doing now. I like to always tout this for 7 straight years. It's always been free and it's always provided value first. And that's what we're going to do today, is bring you value. But we're going to teach you something really specific, right in line with you being your own banker. And it's very simple. If you owned a bank, you would want to make loans. That's how your bank would survive. That's how your bank would make money. I know people that own banks, and when I'm actually meeting with them, I'm like, what is the #1 revenue source? And they said the spread, the loans that they make, because loans are assets. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to demystify policy loans. Because I know one of the big things that we always get when we talk about the infinite banking concept or privatized banking or be your own banker. You notice how I said all three? Infinite banking concepts, privatized banking, and what else? Be your own banker. They are all the same thing. Okay, so it doesn't matter what one of those we're talking about. We are talking about the same thing, and that is you taking back your banking functions in your life. Instead of giving those functions away to a traditional bank or some banking institution, you take them back. That is effectively what this is all about, because in order for you to be in control of your money, in order for your money to work for you 24/7, you're going to have to learn how to be the bank. And that's what we want to do. But being the bank involves loans. And we're going to demystify policy loans, because that's what most people say is the bad thing. They're like, well, it's my own money. If I put my money in this thing and then I take my money out, I got to pay interest on my money. That's my money. Why would I pay interest? It's kind of like if you owned a bank and someone came and deposited money in your bank and you paid them interest. Are you going to complain that you're paying them interest of 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever you pay on your bank? Okay. If you own the bank and you're paying interest to people for depositing money, you're not going to be upset with that, because then you're going to take that money, you're going to lend it out at a higher interest rate than what you pay people to deposit money in your bank. That is pretty basic and pretty simple. I think you all understand that. And that's what we're really going to talk about. We're going to talk about the why. We're going to show you the mathematics, and we're going to show you something really unique. If you stick around toward the end, we're going to get into something very unique, something we've never shown before, that came about because another IBC agent brought us a scenario and said, hey, I saw your video. I liked what you showed, but wouldn't they have been better off doing this? And, you know, we sat there and we're like, would they have been better off doing that? Because we don't teach that. We teach this. So what Craig did is he got his Excel sheet hat on, and he went into the sheets, which, as you all know, Craig is good in the sheets, and he started plugging the numbers, and you're going to find out what we learned and how we actually were able to go back to another IBC agent and show them, hey, here's what we did, here's the mathematics, and here's why your thought wasn't correct. Every time when we do this webinar, we always want to bring you back to the fundamentals, the basics, the why. What is the infinite banking concept? You know, Michael Jordan, if you really read the book, and his name is eluding me, but there's a book that was written by Michael Jordan's coach. And Michael Jordan was notorious for every time he showed up to practice, he would step out there. Now, remember, Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player of all time, or at least during his era, okay? He would always go back to the basics. He'd go out and he'd do basic dribble work, basic footwork, the fundamentals of his sport, right? He always started with the fundamentals. So listen, any of you that are like, oh, I know how to do this stuff, listen, it never is a bad idea to go back to the basics. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it for the first timers, but we're also going to do it. Tim Grover, thank you, Travis. Tim Grover's Relentless. That's right. I met him out in Miami for Grant Cardone's event. He was a very unique guy, kind of intense, but he had just written that book, Relentless. And I read it and it was just such an awesome book. But back to the basics. I want to teach all of you the basics. And those basics start, as I always go, with changing one thing. But let me just explain to you what the infinite banking concept is. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to keep it about as simple as you can possibly get. I've been trying to get this down to like a 5th grade level. Remember, the infinite banking concepts, or what we call IBC, commonly also called privatized banking, also called be your own banker, same thing, involves several components. Number one, it is a great way to take back control of your money because you are in full control of almost every single aspect of the money flow, the money origination. Everything about your money is in your control when you use the infinite banking concept. Number two, it provides certainties in the form of guarantees, certainties and predictions into the future that will not change, and some that will change a little, but not much. Certainty of your money. Liquidity. Liquidity is huge. I think too many people right now are making big mistakes of putting money into illiquid places. Places like 401ks, where it's not that it's illiquid, it's just if you need your money, there's penalties and taxes you're going to have to pay. So is your money really liquid, or is there some type of a toll you have to pay to get your money out? And the last thing, efficiency. That's really what we're going to be talking about today. Efficiency. How does your money work for you the most efficient way? Now, let me be clear. The infinite banking concept is not a product. It is a process. It is a process of you taking back the banking functions. And it starts very simple with your income, okay? Every one of you watching this, every one of you that are seeing the replay of this, you all have an income. And one of two things happens with your income. It's the same for everybody. Number one, you spend it. You spend it on food, groceries, going out to dinner, vacations, things of that nature. You spend your money, and then that money is gone forever. And number two, you save. Now, saving happens to be one of the laws of wealth. There are 6 laws of wealth. It goes all the way back to the richest man in Babylon, the 7 rules of gold. The first one is you must keep, okay, they use the word keep, not save, keep 10% of what you make. That's the law or the rule, whatever you want to call it. I'm just telling you, number one, you must save. If you want to be your own bank, you have to save. Now, I get a lot of people, and listen, so if anyone wants to kind of comment, we just were out at an event, and we had several people come up to us and be like, oh, I don't think I could do this because I'm spending everything I make. You know, I'm not able to save money. And I said to this one woman, and I just want to preface this story, and this is transformational, but this has nothing to do with your money, how much you make, how much you spend. It has everything to do with how you think. Your mind is the single most important thing that you need to shift in learning the infinite banking concept. This person was very upset. She's in a really tough place. Not going to get into the details. It was a sad story of why she was where she's at. And she's like, I can't save any money. To which I heard that and I instantly, and some of you would think this would sound arrogant. I said, why haven't you tried? And she's just like, no. She's kind of like, I don't think you understood what I said. I can't save any money. I'm spending everything I make. Most months I'm running a deficit. And I said back again, have you tried? Think about that. If you sit there your whole life and you start telling everybody around you, you don't have any money. I can't afford that. I can't save any money. You know, boo-hoo me. Guess what will happen? Nothing but the same thing. You will not save any money. You will always be broke, and you will continuously feel like you're behind the 8 ball. But what I said to her is, I said, what I want you to do, starting tomorrow, when you get paid, I want you to come up with a number in your head or a percentage in your head. I don't care what that number is. If it's $10, I want you to pay yourself first. That $10 from your paycheck before you pay anybody else, before you pay a single bill, $10 or whatever that dollar amount is, goes into another bank account, a new bank account that you just created before you pay anyone else. And I want you to write a check. I want you to write a check for $10 and in the bottom, pay myself. And I want you to start there. And every time you receive money, you save money first. You pay yourself first. And here's what I said to her. I said, listen, contrary to what you believe, contrary to what you see when you look at your finances, you think you're broke. You think you're living paycheck to paycheck. You think you can't save. But if you do just that and you start saving, what you will do is change the makeup of your mindset, and also you will change reality. Because now that money is being saved, your bills will still get paid. And believe it or not, when you save and pay yourself first, you will still pay all your bills. I can't explain all of it, but trust me, your bills will all get paid. And then you will become normalized. That savings that you said you could not do will become a normal. You will not miss that money anymore. And then that money will be compounding and you'll see it building. But you will build a habit. And then all of a sudden, that $10 or whatever it was won't seem like it was too much. Then it'll be 100. And then maybe it'll be 1,000. And all of a sudden, nothing in your life has changed. You haven't worked harder, longer, or taken on any risk, but now you're saving because you believed you could, because you forced yourself to pay you first. And you are the golden goose, okay? You are the goose that lays the golden eggs. Without you, nothing exists. So prioritize yourself. You are more important than your bills. You are more important than your debtors. You are the single most important thing. So why in the world have we been taught to pay ourselves last? To pay all our bills first, and then at the end of the month or week or whatever it is, you look at the account and that is what you think you saved. What's left? Bullshit. That's mindset. So we have to change everything about our mindset to get to this point. But once you start saving money, this is where the miracle happens. There's a lot of reasons to save. And I always think purpose is one of the most important things. You've heard the stories where something happens, someone retires, they lose purpose, they don't really have anything. They don't make it long, do they? You know, or a husband and wife, like one of them passes away and it was their sole being, their sole responsibility. They don't make it very long, do they? Purpose matters. So when you save for a purpose. I don't care if that purpose is to basically buy a new car. Maybe the purpose is to save retirement. Maybe the purpose is to give money to a charity. Whatever that purpose is, have the purpose and define it. So now that we've gone over some basic mindset stuff, I'm going to go much faster because now we're going to talk about you being your own bank. The first thing I said you have to do is change one thing, and that is where your savings goes first. Now, let's just say I walked up to you on the street, or Craig walked up to you, or Stephen walked up to you, and we just stopped you, and we said, you've got to change where your savings goes first. That would be a bit weird, right? And maybe you would say, well, why? Why should I change where my savings goes first? That's a very legitimate question. And I think in the society that we live in, people have forgotten to ask why. People have forgotten to just ask that additional question to substantiate why something should be done. Don't just accept someone telling you what to do. That makes you a conformer. That makes you part of conformity. And you don't want to conform. You want to create. In order to create, you have to push the boundaries. You have to ask the why. So if I told you change where your savings goes first, the next question should be, put it in the chat, why? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Let me just tell you why you should change where your money goes first. First off, the place where we're going to put our money pays a guaranteed interest rate on your money. And that interest rate never, ever changes. And by today's numbers, that interest rate can be anywhere between 2 to 3.75%, depending on which company we choose to put your money at. So some of you would be saying, okay, why? Well, I'm making more than that in my savings account. Is anyone making more than 3% on your high yield savings or on your savings account? Put the percentage you're earning right now. Are you making more than 3%? Yes, and the percentage you're earning if you are. Now, there's 120 people or so on here, and I bet you less than 5% of you are earning over 3%. But go ahead, put it up there in the chat. I know all of you are sitting there thinking, well, what are we earning? Some of you are like, honey, I don't think we're making anything on our savings. And that might be the truth. But no matter what it is, so there we go. I was just waiting. Jared said he's making 3.75. So if I told Jared you can get a guaranteed interest rate of 3%, but Jared's like, well, I'm getting 3.75, that's not really that compelling, right? But then if I told Jared, I said, Jared, I know you're getting 3.75, but if this new, oh God, what's his name? The new Fed chair takes the seat and drops interest rates, you're not going to make 3.75. This place where I'm telling you to change where your savings goes pays you a guaranteed interest rate, and that interest rate is contractually guaranteed to never change, no matter what the Fed or the Fed chair does. So that's one. But then you should be saying, well, okay, but why else? Great. What if every year you got a dividend on your savings on top of that guaranteed interest that you were receiving? Now, the dividend is not guaranteed like the interest is, but what if every year you got a dividend? Because they have never not paid one for as long as they've been around. And the companies we are talking about have been around 140 to 160 years. And if we take that guaranteed interest rate plus the dividend and we kind of smash them together to get what we call the dividend crediting rate, the amount you would earn on your money, by today, it is 5.9 to 6.6% with these companies gross. So now, Jared and Jess is making 4.5. Now they can't say anything to that because 4.5 is significantly less than, we'll round up to 6%. And Jared's 3.75 doesn't hold a candle to 6%, right? So now the why is you're going to make more. But hold on, it gets even better because some people might be like, yeah, but that's not that much more. Why else? Okay, glad you asked. In this account, your money will grow tax-free. So if you were earning whatever the rate is, the dividend crediting rate, and that was tax-free, how much would Jess have to earn in that high yield savings today that's paying her 4.5 to earn a tax-free 6%? Well, I think all of you know it would have to be more than 6, right? So if Jess was earning 6% tax-free in her account, depending on her tax bracket and some other things, she'd probably have to earn 7.5% to get the tax equivalent yield of 6 in a tax-free account. So now we're doing pretty good because you asked me why. Why should you change where your money goes first? So I'm giving you an answer, but let's just hit some of the rest of them. It's protected against judgments and liens in most states. My buddy Justin called me up the other day. He lives in Florida, a great state for this. And he said, hey, listen, if I were to get sued, because he's got a bunch of real estate, if I were to get sued, could anyone take this money I have in here? And can I put more money in there if I'm worried? And I said, well, let me look it up. I pulled it up. And guess what? 100% of the money in his account is protected against judgments and liens. Now, it's state by state, but most states, that protection is there. It's also private. This is probably really important to some of you. Private, which means you never need to report how much you have in this account. Which means when you look up the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, you will never know how much money they have because they have their money in these accounts. And these accounts are private, which means private means no one knows. Not bad, huh? Not only that, it gives you control, efficiency, and certainty. No volatility with market movements at all because it is guaranteed. And not only that, there are no restrictions. And also the best part in this new account where you're going to change your savings to is when you die, which we will all die, a death benefit will be paid out to your family. So then that is my end of conclusion of why. And then you would probably say, wow, Chris, what is that thing? Where should I move my money? Because that's way better than what I'm getting. And I would then say, brace yourself. It is a specially designed and engineered whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned company that pays dividends. And then I'll just shut up and it'll be crickets. And then more crickets as you're processing, as you're thinking everything that I just told you is complete and utter nonsense because a whole life policy from what you've been taught doesn't do any of that except for the death benefit. So either I just lied to you for the first 15 minutes, or I told you something you didn't know, which is exactly the truth. I told you something you didn't know. And also I will preface that this is where banks put their tier 1 capital. It's called BOLI. Look it up. I just looked it up, FDIC.gov, and just type in BOLI as of 2026. I couldn't believe this. I do this presentation and I always show $75 billion is what the top 5 banks have in BOLI. And when I looked it up the other day, those same top 5 banks had $200 billion. So from 75 billion in 2021 to 200 billion in 2026, that's a little bit of an increase. Yeah, you think banks know something you don't know? They do. And where are they putting their tier 1 capital? Treasury bonds and what I just told you, bank-owned life insurance, which is whole life. So now that you understand what the vehicle is, some of you are probably still thinking, I don't know, I just don't know, because like Dave Ramsey said whole life is the worst place you can put your money. And that Susie Orman girl, yeah, she said that's the worst place you could put your money too. And I know my Primerica agent, he says he's the greatest financial advisor there is. He said you should never put your money in whole life insurance. To which I will repeat Will Rogers' quote, and you should write this down. But Will Rogers said, the biggest problem in this country is not what people don't know. Will Rogers said, the biggest problem is what people think they know that just ain't so. You've been told a lot of things in your life that are not the truth. You've been told a lot of things about money that don't benefit you. Like you've been told to deposit your money in somebody else's bank. You've been told to put your money in the 401k, yet most people can't answer the simple question of why do you put money in your 401k? And what is that? What is your plan? How much do you want to make from your 401k? What's your income going to be? They can't answer any of that. So you've been told to do a lot of things with your money that benefit somebody else, but rarely does it benefit you. I just told you the whys behind the specially designed whole life. But now let me talk to you about the infinite banking concept, and I'm going to go fast. So this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into loans, the mechanics of policy loans. Because if you owned a bank, you would want to make loans. And now you are creating a private banking system, which means you're going to want to take loans and make loans. But here's the thing. When we talk about this, we want your money to continue working for you. So let me explain this. Let's just use some raw numbers of, we'll take $10,000, okay? And that's probably not a good color for this. So let me change the color here because you probably can't see that. We're going to just assume $10,000. Now, this is not a number that has any merit to it. I'm just picking a number. Let's say you deposited $10,000 into your specially designed whole life. And that $10,000 was just sitting in your regular checking or savings account. You put 10 grand in. But over here, in the what I call the opportunity zone. Notice all we're doing is we're going to take our money, we're going to move it in a complete circle where it's going to end up back in the account that it came from. That's the goal. We want all the money that you save to end up back in the account where it came from, but we want more money in that account than there was when the money left. Fair enough? So here's how it works. We put 10K into the whole life. We come over here and we identify our purpose. We identify a goal, a opportunity. Let's just pick on debt. Let's just say you owe $8,000 to Visa, to which Visa, you are paying $100 a month, and they are charging you 25% interest, okay? That's your Visa card, and that's probably a lot of your cards. You take $8,000 out of your policy as a loan. Now, I know, you're like, why would I take a loan? It's my money. Stay with me. You take 8 grand out, you come over here, and you pay Visa off. Simple transaction, right? You guys all know how to do that. I didn't teach you anything yet. But here's what I did leave out. When you took the 8,000 of your 10,000 out, okay, that 8,000 didn't come from your account. Your money, all of your cash value, is still in that whole life policy, still in your private banking system, earning guaranteed interest plus dividends, uninterrupted. So whose 8 grand did I just take? Well, the insurance companies, of course. The insurance company will let you take their money anytime you want, up to the amount that you have in your cash value, because they want collateral. So if you've got 10 grand sitting in your account, earning guaranteed interest and dividends, and you need 8 grand, no problem. Go online, give us a call, whatever you want. The money will be in your account in 36 hours, but it isn't your money. Well, sort of is. Let me go one step further. The 8,000 came from the insurance company's general account. We're going to show this in some visuals, so I just want to kind of hit on this. The 8,000 came from the insurance company's general account, but the insurance company also gave you a contract guaranteeing you an interest rate, but also making a second guarantee to you, and that is the day you die, they will pay a death benefit out to your family. We all know that's how life insurance works, right? When you die, the insurance company pays the death benefit to your family. Unless you got that really, really awesome stuff Dave Ramsey talks about called term insurance, just so you know, you got less than a 2% chance of ever having that death benefit paid out by statistics, okay? Because it's for a term of time. But a whole life is for your whole life. So it's always going to pay out. So the insurance company, therefore, says, hey, we promised to pay a death benefit out when you die. So let's just say your death benefit is $300,000. I'm just going to write this up here. That's your death benefit. But now you need $8,000 of your $300,000 while you're living. The insurance company will literally take $8,000 from your death benefit, which means now you've got $292,000 of death benefit. The next day you take the loan, but you still have $10,000 in your account earning interest and dividends. Everybody's tracking, right? Okay, stay with me. We paid off Visa. Most people would think they're done. Honey, we just paid off the credit card. This is great. Not yet. If you owned a bank, you would never steal money from your bank because your bank would go out of business. So therefore, what we're going to do is we're going to take this $100 that we used to give to Visa, and we're going to take that $100 and we're going to deposit that in your bank account, or it's just going to stay in your bank account. But then we're going to add another step. We're going to then send that $100 back to the whole life insurance policy, and we're going to do that for a very specific reason. We're not going to lose any liquidity. That $100 is going to still be $100 available and able to be used the very next day. But here's why we just did this. Remember, we were giving 25% away to Visa. That was the interest that they were charging you per year. If you paid Visa off and paid yourself back the same amount you paid Visa, what would be the recaptured interest rate you would be getting on your money now? 25%. That's what you were giving away before, and that's what you're getting back now. But you see, every single month, when you put that money in, you are reducing the principal that the insurance company gave you. So after 1 year, the $8,000 loan you took from the insurance company, let's just say the insurance company charged you 5%, now you've paid them back $1,200. You also have $1,200 in your account to use. But now what happens is the interest being charged is on the balance, $8,000 minus $1,200 that you repaid, but you lost no liquidity, but you paid less in interest to the insurance company. And you know what else happened? The spread you made, the reason you were doing this is to make a spread like banks make, just got bigger. You see, this is what we're going to unpack today. We're going to unpack the infinite banking concept, the process of taking money around this circle to pay off debts, but yet not just be debt-free, but to build wealth at the exact same time, to buy the things that we buy normally, that we would normally borrow money from a bank. We're going to use our own bank, like cars or equipment or furniture or fridges or stoves. And then we're going to then move to investments. See, we're going to show you how all this works. And the entire system works because you're not borrowing your money. You're borrowing the insurance company's money. Therefore, your money, your cash value, continues to earn uninterrupted compounding interest year over year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Your money is working for you while your money is sent out to work for you a second time. So therefore, you are now going to be learning how to make money twice on every single dollar you have. And all you had to do, folks, is back to the beginning, is change one thing. And that is where your savings goes first. So I want to dive into this because we've got some great visuals, and then we got a real special treat at the end. But before we dive into this, Craig, I'm going to give you the ability to share your slides and we can kind of go into your buckets. But I want to just give Stephen a couple of minutes here because we got something really special happening. This next week, we are going out to Atlanta for our event that we've been doing for years called Money Tank. Stephen, can you tell everybody a little bit about Money Tank? I know VIP is sold out, but we still got general admission tickets, and people that don't want to get on a plane or don't want to go to Atlanta, they can just watch the entire Money Tank live from their couch or their toilet or their bed.
Yeah, absolutely. And those of you that are not familiar with Private Money Club or Money Tank, we launched Private Money Club a few years back out of a need from you all, from our clients, and from us as banking practitioners ourselves. And that need was having cash value in our policies and wanting to be able to move that money to make the spread and everything we teach. But and Chris comes from a real estate background. I started out as an entrepreneur in real estate investing. Craig has gotten very involved in private lending. So we understand real estate, but we also don't have the time to go out there and actively flip houses any longer, actively run a real estate investment business. Even rental properties can become quite a pain, especially if you live, unfortunately, like Chris does in New York State. And so, what are the other options out there other than the stock market to really be able to grow wealth? And real estate, there's just so many different advantages. So, Private Money Club came from a need of being able to find new deals and find new opportunities to be able to lend our money on. And then once we started doing it ourselves, people started asking us, our clients started asking us, like, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I lend money on these real estate deals? Where do I find these deals? Like, what kind of paperwork do I need to use? Like, do we do, and the answer is you do it just like the banks do. We use mortgages, deeds of trust, promissory notes. We have the paperwork drawn up just like a bank would do. So we're literally being our own banks and operating just like banks do by creating our banking system with this whole life policy, lending the money out, making a spread just like banks do, and having it collateralized through real estate. So that's what Money Tank is it's 2 days, 2 full days of education, of networking, of relationships, and it's all based on real estate investing, private lending, passive, active, note investing, land development, land investing, like all these different ways to do real estate. And real estate investing not only is a great way to grow wealth, protect your money, but it also has huge tax benefits involved. So we're going to be talking a lot about how you can reduce your taxable income. I mean, I know tax week was last week, and outside of some mayors in New York City, not everyone celebrates tax day. So, we want to typically reduce our tax. We're going to talk about that at Money Tank, but it's just a full financial education. The cool thing about Money Tank too is it's live and it's in person. So if any of you have ever been like, man, I would love to see, is Chris a real person or is he just a robot that's on my computer screen a couple times a week, right? Or, what does this look like? And, is Craig really the freak in the sheets like everyone says he is, the spreadsheets, obviously. But so that's kind of where we're at with it. So we do these live events so we can get together with our clients, with our customers. Everyone becomes friends. We go out to dinner. We have a great time. So like Chris mentioned, we did sell out VIP. So that Thursday evening reception open bar that we're doing with VIP, unfortunately, that is sold out, but you can still get there and hang out at the hotel. But we're going to start first thing Friday morning, next Friday, May 1st, Atlanta, Georgia. You can still get a ticket. And if you just can't make it to Atlanta, you can't travel next Friday and Saturday to be in person, we do have the virtual event going on. So you can log in just like this for all day Friday, all day Saturday. We'll do some special little Zoom sessions. We'll have the speakers come over and say hi and all that fun stuff. We also record the entire thing. So you get the recordings, you can get all the education, you can interact with the other people that are on the virtual. So if you can make it to Atlanta, do it. Like, get there. But if you can't, I would still recommend getting the education, learning about it. So you can go to privatemoneyclub.com/money tank, and I'll put it in the chat box for you in just a second. But go over there, get a ticket, come in person or get the virtual. And it's going to be an awesome event. We have some new speakers, new experts that none of you have ever heard from before. They're brand new. We've been working with them for several years ourselves. We finally decided to bring them to the BYOB and PMC communities. So I'm super excited for it. It's the only live event that we are hosting as a company as well this year in 2026. So Chris and I and Craig, we do travel to other masterminds, other people's events, things like that, but it's the only one that we are putting on ourselves in 2026. So check it out. Hopefully, I can't wait to see a lot of you in Atlanta. And like I said, if you haven't got a ticket yet, grab that and we'll rock and roll with it. So with that being said, Chris, Craig, let's dive into today's wealth webinar.
All right. And Chris, you've got some quote behind you. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, now that my computer's back, this quote is from somebody you may all recognize, Warren Buffett. He said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. You heard it from the big guy. You're either going to find a way to make money by your money working for you, or you're going to work till you die. It's your choice. Get that mindset right. Craig, back to you.
All right. So I'm going to take over, do some screen sharing, but I have a question for everybody before I jump into it. If I were to ask you how much of the money that you make every year do you want to keep, what would you say? And put it in the chat. Would you want to keep 50% of it? Would you want to keep 100% of it? I'm just curious, how much of your money that you make every year do you want to keep? Well, it looks like people want to keep a lot of it, as much as possible, all plus the dividends. All right, so I'm going to share something out and I'm going to ask that question again. So the first thing I'm going to do is when I asked that question, everybody said, well, I want to keep as much as I can, all of it, as much as possible. But when we talk about the the product that's used inside of the infinite banking concept process, Chris already shared with you, it's a specially designed whole life policy. You see this thing here, it says premium. Who thinks this is a bill? So I'm just curious, do you think it's a bill or do you think it's something else? So put it in the chat if you think it's a, Dottie says it's a deposit. We've got Terry coming in with deposit. And that's just it. So the thing we want to start thinking about, and Chris talked about the mindset, we want to start looking at these premiums as funding our own system. And we want to get as much in there as we possibly can. Now, we always want to make sure it works with your cash flow and everything else you have going on. But we talk to so many people, and Chris, Stephen, I'm sure you hear it all the time. How much do I have to put in? What does this thing cost me? Right? Those are a lot of the things we hear from time to time. But when we truly understand what this is just like putting our money into our own system. People don't have challenges putting money into a savings account because they're saving, and this is the same way we want to look at this. So in the example Chris shared, I have one more trivia thing, and then we're going to jump into the loan pieces. If we're putting in $10,000 in premium, and we have, let's say at the end of year one, 8,000, and Chris shared that, hey, if you have $8,000 of credit card debt at 25%, and we can take a loan out of here, wouldn't it make sense to take the loan, pay off that credit card, and then take that $100, that $200, whatever it's going to be, and run it back into your system? So we all agree that that looked like a good plan. But the question I have is if I take that $8,000 loan from this policy, you see in this column, this is showing us our growth every year. If I take an $8,000 loan, who can tell me at the end of year 3, what is my cash value growth going to be? Now I've got it highlighted, but is it going to be 10,109 or something less? Yep, we got 10,109. Chris, I think we have a bunch of very educated people here on our webinar today. That's exactly right. So this is the key. This is the key. When we take that loan, we're not going to interrupt this compounding, and that's one of the main principles behind what we're doing. But we do have a loan interest that we have to deal with, and that's what we want to talk about. So nice job on the answers there. Now we're going to jump into, let me share this
Right.
out.
As you start sharing this, I do want to say that, for everything that Craig was just showing, that's the Vault software that we created. The Vault software becomes similar to your GPS in your car. You put in the destination. Okay, the destination is where do you want to be or what do you want to accomplish financially? You enter the destination in. The software will literally provide you a GPS or an operating system for exactly how to obtain your desired goal. You want to get all the money back for the cars you buy or the whatever you purchase. You want to invest money from your bank versus doing it from their bank. What is the outcome? So the Vault software is available to all of you. You all can use it. Okay, you can do a free demo for 7 days to test it out. And then after that, it's $19 a month or $47 a month, whichever package you choose. But the software does the heavy lifting and the work for you. All you need to do is know where you want to go, and then the software will help do that. And you're going to see that more and more. But I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Chris. And now what we want to do is talk about the components of our banking system and know kind of where the dollars are flowing. And if you stick around to the end, we're going to show some cool strategies on the options for paying loans back. And so let's talk about the components. We just talked about premium. A lot of you said, I want to keep as much of my income as I can. And what we want to think about is how much can we put in this premium bucket? This is the bucket where our premium, we call them deposits, or the money we want to save goes into this bucket. The value of putting money in this bucket is it goes up every day. And Chris just put that quote up there by Warren Buffett that we have to find a way to make our money work for us while we sleep. And for everybody that has a specially designed whole life policy, or you have a whole life policy, every day when you look at your cash value, it should be going up. Now, if you're taking loans, that's going to show that you have less available. But the whole idea is your value in your policy is continually going up every day. So this is the bucket we want to get as much money into because it creates this uninterrupted compounding of interest. And because it is whole life, it's going to happen for your whole life. So bucket one, premium deposits, our savings, it's going to go up every year. The next bucket I want to talk about is what we call our cash value ledger. And this is showing you what is available. So think of this as kind of what's available in your banking system that you could take out to pay off debts, or what could you take out as a loan to go buy a car. And the way I look at this is if you have, say, a $500,000 death benefit in your policy, and you have, let's say, 50,000 of cash value, what the insurance company is actually doing is saying, we're going to let you use some of that death benefit early, and that's how much we're going to let you use. Now, here's the way this bucket works. When you take a loan, the balance in this cash value ledger is going to decrease. When you pay a loan back, it's going to increase. So if you're familiar with HELOCs or lines of credit, it almost operates the same way because as you utilize the line of credit, your balance goes down of what you can take. When you pay that line of credit back, your available balance increases. And I've got a little gas gauge on here, so it's very similar to I drive my car, and this is a gas car, of course. I drive my gas car, my gas gauge starts moving closer to the E. I stop and fill it up at the filling station, and it goes closer to the full. So that's what's going on in our cash value ledger bucket all the time is going up and down as we utilize the cash value for debts, for opportunities, for major purchases. And if you have any questions on this as we're going through this, go ahead and put them in the Q&A and we'll make sure to address those. The next bucket is our death benefit. This is the amount that the insurance company is putting in the contract that they will say when you graduate, when you pass away, this is the amount that your beneficiary is going to get paid. Now, as we take loans, let's say I've got $100,000 of death benefit and I took $10,000 out as a loan. Let's say that I graduate or I pass away. Who can tell me how much death benefit's getting paid out to my beneficiaries? I started with 100,000, I took a $10,000 loan. How much goes to my beneficiaries? Jack comes in with a 90, Justin, okay, everyone's got it. That's correct. So your loan balance is always going to be pulled out of the death benefit at the end of the day. And then the last bucket, and Chris talked about this in the flow of the money, is well, we're putting our premium deposits in, and that's going to continue to compound. We have our cash value ledger bucket, which is going to go up and down based on our utilization. But when we take a loan, it's not coming out of our pile of money. It's coming out of the life insurance general fund. So here's the neat thing about the life insurance general fund. All of our premiums are going in there. All of the income is going into that bucket. And if there's a dollar in that bucket and you take that dollar out as a loan, well, the insurance company can't use that dollar. Unlike the banking system, where if Chris goes and puts a dollar in his bank account, they're going to take that dollar and turn it into 10 or maybe even 100, and then they're going to loan it out to everybody. The life insurance company can't do that. So when you take a dollar, that dollar is being utilized for your loan. They can't go out and do other things with it. Okay. So these are the buckets we're dealing with. Let me know if there's any questions on those, but that's kind of how the policy's working and where the money's coming from in each step. Now what I want to talk about is what happens when you request a loan. Let's say that I go in and Chris, what are some of the ways I can request a loan? How do I do that?
Oh, it's simple. You can just give them a call, the insurance company a call and tell them you want to take a loan. You could go online, which is what most people would do. They just log into their portal and just say, I want a loan. And that's it. The money shows up in their account in 36 hours, or they could call us.
Yeah, I just do it online, Craig. It's very easy. You just click request loan, you put in how much you want. If you aren't sure how much is available, it shows you right there on the screen. And then when you go to check out, it gives you an option like, do you want us to mail you a check? Do you want a direct deposit right into your checking account? I always do direct deposit. And the last two I just took two loans from two different policies about 3 weeks ago, and one of them took 2 days, and the other one took 4 days. So that's been my experience here just recently with it. But it's yeah, it's super simple.
So, unlike a bank loan, when we go in and request a loan, they're not asking us those questions about, hey, what are you using this for? When are you paying it back? I mean, isn't it odd that none of those questions are asked? It's just, where do you want the money dumped? Do you want a check? Do you want it in your account? Are you in a, what do they call those states? Where your spouse has to sign off. I can't think of the word, but sometimes your spouse has to sign off on the loan. But generally speaking, it's pretty easy. And then what they do is they take the money out of the life insurance company's general fund and they dump some money into your bank account. Or, yeah, common law, thank you. So if it's common law state, then you have the spouse will sometimes have to sign. But anyway, it's as simple as that. You go online or you call them and you say, hey, I want $10,000. They dump it in your bank account. Can show up in 3 to 5 days. Just depends on how efficient that's going to be. Now, the question is, are you going to be an honest banker? And there are some cases where you may not pay the loan back right away, but let's talk about we're going to take money out of our banking system and buy a car, or maybe we're doing some windows in our house, whatever it is. We're now going to structure a loan repayment. During the year, during your policy year, so every policy has a year and it's going to be based on when you start it. So it could be based, if we did one today, it'd be April 22nd. So every year, April 22nd is my anniversary. During the year, when you pay loan repayments, 100% of that is going into your principal bucket. You're not paying any interest, but that is accruing on the side, but it's accruing based on what your principal balance is. So Chris was going through the circle, and as you put that $100 in or that $200 of loan repayment, that's reducing your balance and then interest is getting calculated. So you're constantly reducing that interest cost. So that's where your money is going when you make a loan repayment. It's reducing principal. And we actually want it to work that way because it's the most efficient way to get rid of the loan and reduce it and also decrease your interest. Now, at your policy anniversary, the insurance company is going to say, hey, Chris, hey, Steven, here's your loan interest for the year. What would you like to do with it? You have options where you could say, you know what, I don't want to pay the interest. I'm just going to continue putting my $100 or my $200 into the loan repayment, which goes to principal. They'll say, no problem. You don't have to pay your loan interest. But what we are going to do is we're going to add it to your principal. So your principal balance is going to go up by that accumulated interest amount. And you just keep going. And I can show you the math. It's actually, in most cases, it's more efficient just to do it that way. Just pour your interest back into your principal bucket. Now, if you wanted to, you could say at your policy anniversary, I want to pay my loan interest. That's going to come out of cash. So you would just take enough out of your cash and you would pay the loan interest, and then you may continue paying that principal balance over and over. So those are your options on loan paybacks. You can pay the interest or you cannot pay the interest. If you don't pay it, it gets added to principal. And I'll show you some of the numbers on that. So let's go through a quick example, and I'll show you also in the vault how this works. But let's say that I take a $10,000 loan and it's at a 5% interest rate. You'll see here that I'm not making any loan payments, right? So I have a $10,000 balance, and that's what my balance remains throughout the year. But every month I've got interest accruing. So if I'm at 5%, the first month I'm going to have $42 of interest accrued. Then the next month I'm going to have that $42 plus more. So now I'm at 83, and it's just going to keep going. So you can clearly see that the 5% of 10,000 is the 500. That's what our interest accrued to. So if we make no loan payments, we are going to pay 5% interest on that $10,000 balance. However, And then this is showing where we're taking that loan interest and we're piling it on to the principal balance. So when we go into the next year, we don't have a $10,000 balance, we have a $10,500 balance, and then we're going to calculate interest and just keep going after that. Now you could have paid that out of cash, but that's what it would look like otherwise. Now, this is where it gets fun because let's say that that same $10,000 balance, we're going to pay $500 a month. Look at this principal balance and you'll see every month it's going down, $500. And you'll also notice that the interest cost is going to be going down along with it. So at the end of the first year, we're paying $372 in interest as opposed to the 500. So we reduced our interest costs by paying that 500, and then we can roll that 372 into the balance and keep going. But that's how the loans work throughout the policy year. So Chris, I want to just pause here for a minute and just see if there's any questions, see if anybody wants to dig into anything in more detail here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just asking the same thing. Dottie had asked, why does it get put back to interest, or sorry, back to principal? Spit it out. I sort of gave some answers on that. And then Jonna said, did you say it works out better when you don't repay the interest? So those are the two main questions.
Yes, and let me jump into the vault because this is where we can kind of prove some of that stuff out. Like Craig's saying some things. Does it really work that way? Let's just go ahead and use the same $10,000 example at 5% that we were just using. And let's just say we're buying windows for our house.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
and Craig, while you're putting that in there, just to very simplify this, make it very simple. Interest is charged on a balance. Okay. So if you take a loan for, let's say, $10,000 and you do not make back any interest, you don't make back any loan payments at all. So that $10,000 balance is $10,000 for the entire year. Well, interest is charged daily. So let's just say it's a 6% interest rate. Well, at the end of the year, you're going to pay a full 6% interest on that $10,000, which is what, $600? Because you had that balance the entire year. Now, another route on this, if you want to think of it this way, $10,000, let's say you take a $10,000 loan, and like any other loan that you take from a bank, you start making that payment back monthly. Okay. Let's say you're paying it back $500 a month, right? So each month, what happens with the balance of that loan? Well, you start at 10,000, but then it's $9,500. So in the 11th month of that loan, you're only being charged 6% on the 9,500, and then you pay another $500 towards that loan. Well, in the 10th month, now you're being charged on 9,000. So throughout the year, by the end of the year, you're paying 6% interest on a much reduced balance, let's say $4,000. Now, if you think about that for a second and you're looking at what the interest is charged every day, that's 6% in the first scenario, you're paying the full 600 because it was 10,000 for the full year. But when you're paying it down each month, your principal balance is lower by the end of the year. So throughout the year, you're paying a less amount in interest because that 6% is on a lower balance. So by the end of the year, you might only pay $400 in interest instead of the 600 because it was a reduced balance. So just understand kind of that's how loans work and how interest is charged. And it's very simple when you look at it that way. It's why, we'll show you in a second here. Craig will show you in a second here why, hey, it's great. You don't have to, you're in complete control of this. You don't have to pay these loans back. But if you want to pay the least amount of interest and be an honest banker, that's why we always recommend, pay those things back. I don't know if that helps or not, but.
yeah, and we'll show an example here with that 10,000, the 5% interest, and kind of walk through those numbers so we can all see them visually as well. But the options that you have for interest is you can add it to the balance or you can pay it annually, as we talked about at the policy anniversary. So let's just structure a loan where $10,000 loan comes out at 5%. We're not paying anything back. I'm just going to have a loan. And let's go down and look at the table here. So this is very similar to what I just showed in the spreadsheet where the balance is 10,000. At the end of that first month, we have $41.67 in interest accrued. And then next month we'll have 83 and then 125 because we're continually building up to get to that $500 at the end of the first year. So 5% of the 10,000 is going to be the $500. And if we look at what happens going into the next year, this is where the 500 gets added to the balance. And then we start over. We calculate interest again and we just keep rolling. That's what it looks like if we don't pay the interest. Now I can come up here and say, well, what would it look like if I did pay the interest? And so we go back down and we pay the interest out of cash. Well, then our balance is going to be 10,000. So we're just going to kind of keep it the same every year. We're just going to keep knocking down that loan interest where it doesn't compound on us. Now here's where it gets fun. Let's just say we're going to add that to the balance. And if you're taking a $10,000 loan to do windows, you might say, you know what, let's just plan to pay this back at $500 a month. That's what you've decided to structure your loan repayment as. It'll take you 21 months to pay that loan off. And here's some of the numbers down below. Although we have a base rate of 5%, you're effectively only paying 2.33% for that loan because we're knocking that interest cost down. It's no longer $500, it's $407.08. So you're going to be paying effectively less interest over time by using the policy loan, which is simple interest. But let's take a look at it. Let's go down here and say $500 goes in, it's $9,500. $500 goes in, it's 9,000. So you can see the balance dropping by $500 every month. And at the end of that first year, instead of $500 of interest, we have $337.50. Then what we're going to do is take that $337.50 and put it onto the well, in this case, I think I'm paying it. Let me see what I set up here. No, I'm adding it to the balance. So now we're taking this loan and we're adding it back into the balance and then continuing on. So let's look at some numbers here, maybe down at month 15. Our balance is, and Stephen, maybe just keep track of these numbers for me, 2837. Okay. That's what our balance is at month 15. I want to prove something out here.
What was it? 23 what? Sorry.
2815, I think it was. Let me go back down real quick. So at 2837.50.
Okay, got it.
All right. So now what I want to do is if we were to say we want to pay the interest annually, it would be $337.50 we have to save up. So think of it this way. This is the way I think of the money flowing is, well, if I have to pay that $337.50, I should probably save that every month and set it into a savings account somewhere. So I'm going to take, let's call it $28. Let's just call it $29 a month I'm going to set to the side because I want to have that available at my policy anniversary to pay this interest cost off. So this will knock our balance down to 2,500, which is great. What was the balance I told you to keep, Stephen?
2837.50.
Yeah. So here, if we pay the interest, we're thinking, oh, we're doing better. But isn't it true that if we take that 28 or let's call it that $29 and we just change this back to add to the balance, but we increase this to maybe 529? Now we're going to pay 529. So instead of storing that $29 in our savings account to pay the interest, why don't we just pay that towards our principal every month? You follow what I'm doing here? We have an option of either saving up the money for our interest at the end of the year, or we can just put it towards the payment. And so now I'm going to pay 529. And I'm going to let the interest roll. Month 15, we're at 2393. So if I pay the interest out of cash, my balance at month 15 is 2,500. If I let the balance roll and I don't pay the interest, it was what, 28 something, Stephen? 2,800. So do you see?
2837.50. Yeah.
Yeah. So we made even more progress by saying don't pay the interest. Don't pay the interest. But if you're saving up for it, put it in your payment so we make a bigger principal payment every month. and you will knock that balance down even faster and you'll have less interest to pay. So hopefully everyone followed the mechanics of that because this is the way I've been doing it for years. I just don't pay the interest. I just let it roll and I try to put as much as I can towards principal.
I like that. Terrace Berries said, so it's like compound the pay down. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you're compounding the pay down essentially. So it's just one of those things. We're either going to let the interest roll, we're going to save up for it. If we're saving up for it, you might as well put it towards the principal. And I've run this so many times. I just know if I put more towards principal, I'm going to be better off and just let the interest roll. So some fun games with math, but just wanted to share that with everybody. Now, isn't there more, isn't there more to the equation here? Because yes, we have put our dollars into the premium bucket. Remember that big green bucket? That's the premiums. We have compounding going on, but I'm not showing you any of that compounding. And what we're only showing is the cost of the loan. But we do have compounding. So let's go ahead and run a real scenario where we take a policy, and I'm just going to grab one. It doesn't matter. Let's grab this one. So I'm going to model out taking a real policy loan from a policy. And let's just assume it started today. So we're going to start this policy. We have our first loan that we're available to take. And I'm going to go over and let's just put a fake name in here. And so here's the fun part. If we're following kind of what Nelson Nash taught, he would say, if you're going to finance your windows and you went to a bank, what would that bank charge you in as an interest rate? Would it be 5%? Maybe it's 6%. Let's just call it 6%. So our policy loan is 5%, but we're going to pay our system back at 6%. That means we're going to have some extra loan payments that won't fit into the loan. So we may put those into premiums. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay this loan back at 6%. And I want to look at a couple factors. So we just started our policy and we're putting in premiums over these next 20 months. And we have cash value being gained. And we have a loan cost of about, it looks like around $383. So if we put in $101,000 of premium on this policy, let's say it was, something smaller, but in this case, we have $101,000 of premium going in over 20 months. Our cash value gained is 94,160. So immediately I can hear some people probably thinking, I don't know about this Craig guy. He's telling me to put $101,000 into this thing and I only have 94,000 of cash available. I don't know what he's teaching. But let me ask you this. This is the first iteration of taking a loan. We haven't achieved our efficiency in the policy yet. But would you be okay getting 92 cents back for every dollar that you financed of those windows? Or would you be happy going into a bank and saying, hey, I need to take that $10,000 as a loan from the bank and you lose $10,533? That would be money gone from your family forever. What we're talking about is building a system where, hey, if I can get 92 cents back for every dollar for the windows I purchased, that's pretty cool. I like that. Plus, I have a death benefit. But now what I want to show you is what would it look like if we get a few years down the road and we buy more windows. Maybe we have another rental house and we need to buy some more windows. So instead of starting this at 422.26, what if we go to 2030? And why am I going to 2030? I want to show you what happens as the policy matures, gets more compounding, more growth. It becomes more efficient. Our banking system becomes more efficient. Look at that. We put in 60,000 of premium. Our policy has now gained 71,000 over that 21 months. We're now getting $1.19 back for every dollar we finance in those windows. So now let me ask you again, who would rather have a financing system like this one down here, where we go to the bank, we take out our $10,000 and we pay them $10,533, gone from our family forever? Or would you like the fact that you put in 60,000, you gain 71, and your loan interest was 383. So haven't you gained more in compounding than your interest cost was? You've gained far more in compounding than your interest cost was. You're getting $1.19 back. So that's the fun with the math that we can do in the vault. You can model out your loans and you can kind of determine how you want this to work. Um, yeah, Terry, right. Forget the bank. You are the bank. So the bank of Terry. So, but are there any questions on this? I'm happy to go back and drill in any more detail. But first off, are you guys following? Does this make sense? Do you see the value of seeing that compounding going on while we're taking loans? Because we haven't stopped that compounding. And Chris, were there any questions that we need to hit on?
Just the one that just says, wait, what did we do to get 92 cents back from the loan?
So what we're doing is we're measuring all of the inputs you put into the system. So you're paying premiums, you're taking loans out. So basically, we're just think of a box. Everything you put in and what you took out. Inside of that box, you still have 92 cents of all that financing that you took. That $10,000, you still have 92 cents of every dollar you financed in the box. As we get more efficient going down the road, you're still putting premiums in, you're taking money out for loans, you have dividends and compounding going on inside of the box. We're now becoming more efficient because we're taking a dollar out of financing, but inside the box it grew $1.19. That's what I'm showing right now.
I think a really important thing too here is, there's a lot of folks that have been around this campfire for a while, and a lot of people that are maybe seeing this for first time, maybe second, third time. And, the questions are great, but, all these scenarios that we're giving are just generalized scenarios that we're kind of pulling out of examples we've done. Each of you have your own scenario. Some of you are on here that are asking questions. Maybe, you're like, all right, well, how would this work paying off my debts? Somebody was asking, how would this work with paying off my mortgage? How would this work if I wanted to put money here and use it to invest in real estate? So all those are individual scenarios. So what I would suggest, and I always like to do this because this is something that we've kind of been building into our entire systems and our entire just model. And that is the Ritz-Carlton, where if you have a question, no matter what it is, we have somebody to answer that question, a human being, not a computer. You don't have to go to this special link and go through this funnel and enter in all this stuff. All you need to do is give us your phone number in the chat or in the Q&A. Just give us your phone number. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call, and we'll do on that call, we'll go over your individual situation, run your numbers into the vault, and look at how this infinite banking concepts or this private banking system will solve your problems. So folks, if any of you have an interest in jumping on a call, we have people right now who could get on a call with you or right after. What we'll do is give us your number. We'll text you and just say, hey, when would you like to do a call? And you might say, hey, this thing ends in 15 minutes? Let's do a call in 18 minutes. Great. So that's all you got to do is just put your number in the chat, and we will pick it up, and then we'll shoot you a text.
Hey, Chris, also, let me just, if anybody doesn't want to air out their private phone number, just make sure the little blue box in the chat box says host and panelists.
Oh, yes.
And then only we can see that. So you can share your number in the chat with host and panelists, and you're not going to, share that with everyone on the call. We have well over 100 people on here, so we don't want that to happen. Additionally, if you are like, hey, I'd love to do this, but I need to look at our schedule, I would highly recommend too, if you're married, do this with your spouse, have you guys both involved with this conversation so you can talk through, where you're at, your debts, what that looks like. Let us help you. So if you guys need to schedule that, I'll also put a scheduling link in the chat also, so you have an option there if you want to schedule. But if not, shoot us that phone number and we will definitely connect with you guys ASAP.
Yeah, and Barbara asked a good question too. Is like, hey, if I don't have a policy, can I play around in the vault and model this out? And absolutely you can. There's some sample policies in there. And then if you're working with one of our money mentors, like if you get on the schedule and look at that, we can build some preliminary designs, load them up, and show you some of the numbers. So as Chris mentioned, you might be someone looking to finance a major purchase. You might be looking to get rid of some debt. You might be an investor, want to run some opportunity funds through the policy. We can model all of that out for you and show you what it would look like with your numbers. So that's really the value of getting the call booked is then you can go and look at your numbers. So with that said, Chris, should we jump into the bonus material about, that email that you had received, and then we started talking about what are some of the ways we can run loan money back into the system? Oh, you're on mute, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Barbara had said, which vault, the debt blaster or the portfolio plan for my scenario? Barbara, if you're doing it with the infinite banking concept with a policy, then you want the portfolio plan. Debt blaster is just for debts and velocity banking, does not include the policy integration. All right.
Correct.
So you want me to queue this up or do you want to queue it
Yeah,
up?
why don't you queue it up? I'm gonna pop this open while you're talking because I want to show the policy, and then yeah, just kind of set it up and then I'll run through
So how
the
this all came to be is we put a video up on YouTube, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen our YouTube channel at the Chris Naugle, and we had a scenario in there where we were showing exactly what you just learned about policy loans being repaid and how it drives the APR down, increases your spread. And what this agent, because it was another IBC agent, said was, hey, wouldn't you make more money if instead of paying the loan back, you just let the loan accrue and you took the same amount you would pay to the loan and put it into the paid up additions rider? And then we went one step further and said, okay, well, what if you did a little bit of both? What if you took the loan repayment, you split it, some went to the paid up addition, some went to the loan? And I thought it was a good question because it was basically kind of one that makes you think. If the policy's dividend crediting rate is hypothetically 6%, depending on which company we go with, 5.9 to 6.6, then it would appear, even with the IRR, the internal rate of return, that you could make more by putting it into the paid up additions than you would versus paying the loan back. So I have always practiced the infinite banking concept where I've paid my loans back. Every loan I take from my policy, I set up a loan repayment. Somebody was asking about, like, does the insurance company provide that loan repayment schedule? The insurance company does not, because the insurance company doesn't care if you ever pay the loan back because they're just subtracting it from their death benefit. But we would build that model, and I've always done that, and that's how I've done it. Unless it was a flip, then I would pay the loan back upon the sale of the flip or the real estate transaction with interest. But this is where this whole thing came about. Should I pay the loans back, or should I take the money and put it into additional paid up addition deposits? Right? I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, and the other qualification there was I will pay my loans back because I expect a windfall at some point in the future. So I want to make sure that that's clear too, because the idea was, what if I kind of forget about servicing the loan in the policy and I'm going to use this windfall some point in the future to take care of the loan, but in the meantime, I want to put all that extra money into premiums. And so what that kind of looks like in this bucket scenario, if we look at this again, basically what they're saying is I'm going to take a loan from the general fund of the insurance company. There's going to be interest compounding in there, but I'm going to structure whatever that loan cost was, I'm just going to put it all back into this bucket. I'm not going to service my loan. Well, we know that putting more into that premium bucket is going to create higher death benefit. It's going to create more cash value down the road. But we have this other thing over there lurking, this compounding interest in the loan. And so we just have to figure out what's the best way to go. Now their plan was I'm going to get this windfall some point in the future that I could pay the loans off, but I'm going to just leave that right there and we'll come back to that concern. So we went ahead and created a policy design, and just to show you what this looks like over time is the plan design was for a 45-year-old male, standard non-tobacco kind of a person. And they were planning to put $25,000 in as a one-time dump in. So 25,000 just gets dropped into the policy immediately. And then there's going to be a $12,000 annual premium. So in year one, $37,000 is going in to the policies. You see 37,000 going in premium. The idea was we're going to wait until about year two to take the loan. So we have about 39,000 in cash value built up at the end of year two, plenty enough to take a $20,000 loan. But this is what the policy looks like. Now, what I want to do is run you through some different scenarios here. So here we are. We have
putting your phone numbers in the chat there. We'll send you a text if anyone else wants to do a call. Just keep putting your phone numbers in there. Host and panelists, give us your number. We'll reach out, send you a text.
Yep. So we have a design where one-time dump in at 25,000, annual premium 12,000. I'm not going to get all the details about the policy design, but just know that when we design policies, they're purpose designed for what you're trying to accomplish. We have different ingredients we put in there, and so we're going to always look at your situation, figure out what's the best design for you. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a $20,000 loan, and I just use 5.48% interest. Some of the insurance companies are in the fours, some are in the sixes, but I just picked 5.48 for this study. And what we're going to do is a 5-year payback of that loan. So now what I want to look at is if we're making $23,561 in total loan repayments, I split that up over years 1 through 4 would be $4,800 of loan repayment. And the 5th year, we have a little bit less. So we put in 4,361. Now we have to treat this money the same in each scenario. So what we're going to walk through are looking at these 4 different options for paying back loans. So we have the control, which is no loan. We didn't take any loans, and that will help us understand what are the cash value and death benefits at every year. Now we're going to go to the first scenario is the traditionalist. This is kind of what Chris does. This is what I do. Stephen does this. We take a loan and then we figure out how we're going to pay it back. And we pay our loans back. So in this case, we would be paying, say $400 a month or $4,800 a year back into our loan, recapitalize our policies and fill our cash value bucket up again. Now, there's 2 other ways to do this. Something more aggressive, which is we're not paying any loans. So all the money going back into the insurance company, we're saying no loan repayments. I don't want that $4,800 in year 1 to go, not a penny of it to go to loan repayment. If my policy can hold it, I want it to go into premium. And this is a big if. If the policy has room and we can put in more premium, then that's what this scenario is. We're taking that $4,800 and we're dumping it into the premium. Year 2, we're adding another $4,800 to our premium, and we're just going to keep doing that. And then we're going to see where are we at year 10, year 20? What does it look like? There's another option, and this is called the optimized, where we're going to only pay the loan interest in the policy every year. So we won't have that loan interest compounding on us. Everything left over is going to go into the premium bucket, that big green premium bucket. Okay, so we have pay your loan back. We have don't pay your loan back and put everything into the green premium bucket. And then we have pay your loan interest only every year and put the rest in the big green bucket. Those are the different scenarios that we're going to look at. All right, here's how the numbers work out. Of course, for strategy 1 and 2, which was the control, there's no loan plus the loan payback. At the end of year 10, we would have $150,794 of cash value, a death benefit of $935,224, and we'd have no loan balance. So this is kind of what the traditionalist will do. They'll take a loan, pay it back. Now, strategy 3, remember strategy 3 is we're going to take all of the loan repayments that we would have otherwise done, and we're going to put that into the green premium bucket. We're not going to service any of the loan. At the end of 10 years, we would actually have less cash value, 146. We'd have a death benefit of 972 because we put that extra premium in, but we also have a loan balance of 33,214. Now, the whole idea is we're waiting for this windfall in the future. Maybe it's an inheritance, maybe it's a deal that's closing, some investment, but we haven't dealt with that at year 10. So you'll see that between strategy 1 and 2, the traditionalist, we actually have more cash value than we would if we would have just put all that money into PUA and let the loan grow. Now, the fourth strategy was the one where we're taking a loan, we're taking all the money and putting it into the green bucket, but we're taking enough to pay loan interest every year. By paying that loan interest every year, We have a lower balance in the loan, 24,000 versus the 33. We have a little bit more in cash value because that loan interest didn't eat up some of our cash value. But let me just ask you, would you prefer option one, two, or three? Would you rather do the traditionalist? Would you rather be the aggressive or the optimized? Now, the last two options still rely on getting this windfall. If you get the windfall, you can pay the loan balance off and you'll have a higher net cash value than you would otherwise. But this is what we have to think about. How much risk are you willing to take in that strategy? So let's go to year 20. Let's say that the windfall didn't show up. We're at year 20 and we didn't get our windfall yet. If we would have paid that loan off, we'd be sitting on $266,000 of cash value with a death benefit of 579. If we did the extra paid up additions or the extra premium, putting it into the green bucket, but we never paid loans, we never paid interest, our cash value would be 251,246 with a loan balance of 58,000. So look, that original $20,000 of loan balance has now turned into 58,355. But we have higher death benefit. So then the last one is, what if we were to just cover the loan interest over all those 20 years or paying that loan interest and putting the rest into the green bucket, we'd have 255,000 and a loan balance of 42,000. So here's the way I look at it. If the windfall comes back, if you get the windfall and you can go pay that 58,355 off, you're actually going to have $309,000 of cash value available. So you would be better off doing the extra paid up additions option. If you had the windfall and you paid off the $42,000 in loan balance, your cash value would actually be $297,000. So mechanically, it is true that if you put the money in the extra PUA, you could end up with a higher cash value. You could end up with more death benefit. But what are we relying on? We're relying on a future thing that may not happen. So that's what we have to sort out in our own situation. So this is where I leave it. There's a risk of the arbitrage. So what if that backfilled loan never happens? What if that windfall never comes? That's the problem. So the real risk is not the loan. It's really, do we have maybe a lack of discipline, or maybe we spent that money? Maybe we don't, maybe our deal doesn't work out, or maybe that inheritance doesn't come. What if we don't have the cash flow to service that loan? What if we don't have a long-term plan? So the way I kind of look at this whole scenario is everybody could put a position to say, hey, my way is the best way. The traditionalist with paying the loan back is the best way. Now, the other thing I would look at too, if I just take a step back, we need a windfall of $58,000 to pay that loan off. Net net, if we took that 266 plus the 58, we would have $324,000 available. Now, it wouldn't all be in premium, but if I had a windfall of 58,000 that I could pay this loan off, I would be at 309,000. But if I also had that 58,000 available in this scenario, I would have 324,000. So the traditionalist still kind of wins the game, don't they?
Absolutely. It's funny, Craig, not this exact scenario, but a friend of mine called me. I did a policy for him years and years and years ago. And he's used it for real estate deals, not always used it right, but he's trying to get it back on track. And he kind of came up with this idea in his mind that that's how it would work. Like for some reason, sometimes people think, oh, if I repay the loan, that money's gone. They don't think that they get that money back. I'm like, no, dollar for dollar, you get that money back. It just goes right to your cash flow. You can be used the next day when your check clears. And when he heard that, he had thought that, but then when he confirmed that, he's like, holy crap, that's amazing. And I was kind of like stunned. I'm like, yeah, I guess it is kind of amazing. But, sometimes people just need to see it a couple times in order for it to sink in.
Yeah. So, I mean, the extra PUA strategy could work, but if you do get the windfall, you're going to be sitting on 309,000 of cash. If you paid the loans off and you have that 58, well, that's your money too. So you would end up at 324. So I still feel the way I'm going to operate is the traditionalist way. I'm not going to take that risk. I'd rather just have that money back to pay the loan off. And if the windfall comes, well, I have more money to do something with. Maybe I create more policies, maybe I max fund my policy, but the math is the math. I mean, in most cases, we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to take on some risk or just put it all back in the policy and I venture to say we'd be better off just paying the loans back.
And you know what I love about this too, Craig? This kind of shows in a fancy way, because this is your capital engineering blueprint, as it says there. But this kind of is a really cool way to look at what the vault capability has given us the ability, what the vault has given us the capability to do.
Yeah.
We can literally look at all sorts of different scenarios based on individuals' situations and run them just like you did here, and kind of then do comparisons of, okay, well, here's one, here's two, here's three. And then which one do you like? Which one would you prefer? But
Yeah.
before the vault, this was all just conceptual. You could sure, most agents, when somebody was just saying, they had called a rep, an agent, if you will, and asked them if they would design a policy this way, and the agent said no. I can't remember who just put that up in the Q&A, but that's very common that you'll have agents or financial advisors tell you, number one, that they won't do it, or number two, that they can't. That's more common. Oh, that can't be done that way. Oh, you can't do that. But that's because they don't want to give up commission. Because in designing these policies the way we do, that's why it says specially designed and engineered. What we are effectively doing is designing it to reduce our commission. I mean, listen, there's no hocus pocus magic here, folks. It's someone's got to give so somebody else gets. The insurance company has a contract. The contract can be modified. The contract can be designed, which is what we do. In designing that, somebody's going to give and somebody's going to get. You all just need to understand that you should be the one getting. Like, why should the agent get their full commission and you get no cash value in the first year and maybe no cash value in the second year? That's the trade-off. The way we design them is we basically take a big reduction in our commission, 60 to 90%. So you have 60 to 90% more cash value immediately in the first 30 days. Like literally, that's it. Agent or a rep or advisor makes a big commission, or agent, rep, or advisor makes a lower commission, and you get the difference. That's what you have to consider. And the vault software, not to keep harping on the vault, can give us the absolute. We just did this again. I'm sorry, I'm using real examples, but we met with so many people. We met with somebody that had a design done for them, and it was a good design. No ifs, ands, or buts. It was a good IBC design. Craig sat down with the vault and in literally no less than 5 minutes, re-engineered the good design and made it great. And got them, how much more was it? It was like 88, 89, 90, 91, 4% more money available immediately. And then in the long run, it was just a perpetual tailwind. I mean, they had more and more and more. So we ended up earning that business with that client, not because the client didn't have a good agent doing a design that was right, but because we had the ability to optimize that good design to make it great. So folks, you just need to decide, do you want good or do you want great? Because the only thing we do here is great. So if you don't want great, we're not a good fit for you. But if you want great, if you want the highest cash value, the best design, and someone that's actually going to be with you to take you through the whole process and help you implement and fulfill on your needs and goals, we are your choice. So throw your number in the chat, and market host and panelists, 100 and some people don't get your phone number, and then we'll book a call with you and we'll show you what excellent and great looks like.
Yep. Yeah, and I want to address Carrie's question live, because Carrie says, if you're using a HELOC, at what point does the policy loan get repaid? And inside of the vault, Carrie, I've run some of these numbers myself where we've got policies, we may have a HELOC, and the question is, if we have some extra money, where should it go? And there are a lot of factors based on your income, your expenses, the interest rates, the debts. All of those things can influence the cost that's in the HELOC and the cost that's in the policy. So what we do is we run those numbers in the vault to figure out, where is my highest cost of money, and should I plop that money in the HELOC to buy that down to save me interest there? Or maybe my HELOC is already very efficient and the interest rate's very low compared to the policy, and I could save interest by plopping it into the policy. But generally speaking, if you have your HELOC fully restored and you have a policy loan, of course, then it all goes to the policy. But which one is the most efficient? we need to figure it out based on your situation, because if you change any one of those factors I just talked about, the income, the expenses, the interest rates, the debts, any one of those changes can impact where that money should live. Should it go on the HELOC? Should it go on the policy? So it's a depends. But we can run that. All right. Well, I think that's
No,
all I have.
you gave me
Unless
such a
there's-
great idea. Jordan's right here, and I'm like, Jordan, we got to do a video on this. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. But anyway, I think we're at time, and that's all I had to go over today anyway. But just want to see if there's any final questions.
No, I see people putting a number in the chat. That's great. And also, if any of you wanted help specifically with the vault, do the same thing. Give us your number, but write the vault after your phone number. And that way we'll get you to the right people and help you with that. So, everybody can help you with the vault, but if it's specific to the vault, just write the vault. That way we'll know, and we'll kind of cut out any of the lost time on that one. Folks, I know we're less than a week out from Money Tank, but I know I'll be seeing a whole bunch of you out in Atlanta for a really amazing event. And if any of you are kind of like, you know what, Atlanta's not far, maybe I should go out, then get on there, get yourself the ticket. VIP is sold out. Sorry about that, but we have general admission tickets, and we also have the virtual tickets. So make sure you join us for that event next week. It'll definitely be it's always good, but it's going to be probably the best one. We always do them. We're like, oh, that was the best one. Oh, that was the best one. But I'm sure this one will be the new best one. And hopefully I'll get to shake some hands and meet a bunch of you. With that being said, folks, thanks for joining us for this episode of Wealth Webinar. Craig, thank you so much for all your hard work. And thanks so much for unpacking that really freaking cool engineered blueprint that you just did. I love that. And we'll look forward to talking to a bunch of you and getting into your situation and solving your problems. With that being said, until next time, we'll see everybody later.